President Trump held a marathon cabinet meeting today at the White House. Cabinet members took turns heaping praise on the president, bashing media coverage of the administration, and spiking the football on what Attorney General Pam Bondi said was a first 100 days that has far exceeded that of any other U.S. president. The meeting went on for 2 hours and played out in front of TV cameras rolling and reporters in the room. White House columnist Niall Sanas joins us to discuss. Now, both the Vice President and Attorney General attacked the media. Vance said the media narrative of chaos at the White House is really just Trump being a man of action. Bondi said Trump has saved 258 million lives by taking fentanyl off the streets, which she says, kind of made the claim that the media is not reporting that. Why do you think that members of the cabinet are so focused on media coverage?
Right now, Drew, I think it's a consequence of the fact that President Trump is tanking pretty badly in the polls. We have seen that across a whole range of surveys, that his approval ratings are well down. And the tariff question seems to be central to that. It is reaching voters in the centre ground in a way that some of the other concerns around Trump has not. That has led to him being in a weaker position now than he certainly was at the time of his inauguration. One poll showed him with the lowest approval rating at the 100-day mark of any president in 80 years. So of course it's not unusual for Trump or his allies or his cabinet members to attack the media, but here I think it's partly distraction and partly trying to pin the blame on the media for that decline in his polling numbers.
There was a question about this minerals deal between the U.S. and Ukraine. Trump has framed it as payback for U.S. support after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine has said this is a forward-looking deal to create deeper ties between the two countries as Ukraine seeks to fend off Russian aggression. There was a talk that that deal would be signed today, but now it seems like there's some snag.
Yeah, that's right. This was one of the more unexpected items of news to emerge from the cabinet meeting. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, basically indicated that he believed Ukraine had either tried to start renegotiating a deal that he believed had been settled or tried to add new conditions. It wasn't really clear specifically what he meant. And of course, he's not going to negotiate the fine print of a deal in front of the media. But it was a curious moment there, and it certainly seems as if it may not be happening today, as had been indicated earlier.
There was some suggestion that there was a Ukrainian official that was going to be flying to the U.S. today. Do we know if that's off?
We don't, to be perfectly honest. There's a lot of lack of clarity here because this mineral deal has been talked about for a long time. I mean, it was being talked about at the time that there was that now infamous clash between Zelensky on one side and President Trump and Vice President Vance on the other. But we're still not there, and so the specifics or the machinations behind it are really shrouded in mystery at this point.
I want to ask about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the Maryland man wrongly deported to El Salvador. Trump said during that ABC interview last night that he could get him back with a phone call. There was a question about what's being done to comply with the Supreme Court order that the Trump administration facilitate his return. Secretary of State Marco Rubio chimed in and basically said, we're not going to allow the courts to dictate foreign policy. Is the administration saying that it can pick and choose which court orders it wants to obey?
I think that's the logical extension of the argument Rubio was making. Rubio was arguing that the courts are somehow interfering in the administration's capacity to conduct foreign policy. Now, when it comes to Mr. Abrego Garcia, that's not, frankly, really the point. The point there is an immigration court had prohibited the United States government from deporting him to El Salvador in particular, and they deported him to El Salvador. So to that extent, there's a disregarding of that court order. So I think that's really the central point. But you're right to highlight that Trump comment, because the president there, I think, messed up to some extent the argument that his allies have been making, which is essentially a sort of shoulder shrugging, well, it's up to El Salvador. Trump being pretty clear in that ABC interview that he could bring him back if he wanted.
Rubio also said the administration was looking for other countries where it can deport people. There has been talk of doing this to eventually U.S. citizens that are deemed to be the worst of the worst. There's already been some cases where U.S. citizen children have been deported. They are the children of illegal immigrants, and they were deported together. Do you have an idea of how far the Trump administration thinks it can go with this policy of deporting people to other countries?
seems that they think they can go pretty far, judging from Secretary Rubio's remarks, Drew. He was, as you say, pointing out that there would be more instances of this. Clearly, the El Salvador matter has caused this whole firestorm, but the administration not backing off at all, basically arguing that that creates a kind of template that they would like to use in other nations. We know essentially nothing about which other nations might be willing to take people. And as you say, President Trump has very controversially suggested that, I think he used the term homegrown criminals could be deported as well. Almost all law experts say that that can't be done constitutionally.
Now, you wrote this article yesterday about the 5 biggest mistakes of the first 100 days of the Trump administration, and one of them was empowering Elon Musk. Musk has been a big presence at these cabinet meetings so far, but at this one, not so much. You know, he has been talking about $2 trillion in savings through the Department of Government Efficiency. Now that is apparently down to $160 billion, and he just didn't have a lot of time on camera during this meeting, which is a big difference from what we've seen in the past. Is this a sign that the Trump administration read your column and you're due a post on Truth Social here pretty soon where he acknowledges you were right?
I will not be holding my breath for any Truth Social posts from President Trump saying that I'm right about anything. But I think the serious point here is Elon Musk is himself personally unpopular. I think there's a separate issue where the general thrust of the idea that the federal government can be pared down is not unpopular, but Elon Musk is, and the recklessness or the glee that Doge has taken in some of these cuts, that has been unpopular. So I'm not that surprised to see at least a slightly lower profile for Elon Musk in today's cabinet meeting.
Yeah, and there's some work that probably needs to be done back at his company, Tesla, which has been going through a little bit of struggle, to say the least. We'll leave it at that. Niall Stanage, White House columnist here at The Hill. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Drew.